everything is normal. The weather is nice and people are going about their day in peace. Then suddenly, the ground beneath your feet starts shaking as you try to understand what's happening. Buildings collapse, people scream, everything falls around you, and dust covers the sky. Time stops, seconds turn into nightmares. And this isn't a scene from an apocalyptic movie. This was reality on March 28th, 2025. Welcome to the Attention Channel, and let's continue the story. It was 12:50 p.m. People in the city of Mandalay, the second largest city in Myanmar, were living an ordinary day until the earth decided to speak. A massive earthquake with a magnitude of 7.7 on the Richter scale struck suddenly. Without warning, without any signs, the earth exploded beneath their feet. In the first minute of the disaster, over 3,000 buildings collapsed completely. People were trapped under the rubble. Smoke and dust filled the air, and even the air itself became suffocating. The scene was closer to hell.
Oh!
Were so strong that they reached Thailand. In Bangkok, the capital, buildings swayed, glass shattered, and people flooded the streets in unprecedented panic. But the real disaster was at a huge construction site in Bangkok, a 33-story building. There were over 100 workers. In seconds, the building collapsed completely. It was like folding a tower made of paper. 47 bodies were recovered. Only 9 made it out alive, and 47 others are missing, and no one knows where they are to this day. 6 hours after the earthquake, the worst happened. Powerful aftershocks struck the area, one of which reached 6.3 in magnitude. Many people were still trying to escape the rubble, and the new tremors made things worse. In Myanmar, the situation was even more tragic. The country was already suffering from political crises and a previous military coup. But after the earthquake, everything changed. The government declared a state of emergency, but they were unprepared. Electricity was cut off, communication networks failed, the airport was closed, and the main roads cracked like paper. The United Nations declared that over 20 million people were affected by the disaster. 65,000 buildings were either destroyed or partially damaged. The losses were estimated in billions of dollars. But some things can't be measured, like the lives lost and the people whose lives turned into nightmares. In the midst of all this, families were searching for their children among the rubble, each person holding a photo, calling out names, clinging to hope. Hospitals were filled, bodies were transported in mass trucks, sacred places turned into shelters, but they couldn't protect people from the recurring aftershocks. Neighboring countries started sending aid. China, India, Thailand, all sent rescue teams, doctors, supplies. But the earthquake wasn't just a natural disaster. It was an earthquake in the heart of humanity itself. The rescue teams worked under impossible conditions. Every time they tried to pull survivors from the rubble, the ground would shake again. Many of them died trying to save others. Doctors worked without electricity, in tents, using basic tools. But their determination was stronger than anything else. The strangest thing was, people from different political backgrounds, from conflicting factions, forgot their differences and started working together, hand in hand. Volunteers cooked in the streets. Doctors from Japan performed surgeries with simple tools. And mothers distributed blankets to children who had lost their families. But amid all this, there was a bigger battle. Among the survivors, there was a real struggle for survival. Not just for food and water, but for hope. Many people lost everything, but they kept searching for a light in the darkness. The earthquake was a turning point in the region's history. It exposed the fragility of many of the affected countries' governments. Unfortunately, in some places, political crises slowed recovery efforts, and this greatly affected the distribution of aid. There were areas isolated from the rest of the world due to destroyed roads and communication networks. In those moments, humanity was the only thing that could unite the survivors, despite their political and social differences. And even though the earthquake carried with it a lot of pain and loss, humanity in Myanmar showed its brightest side in the face of the crisis. There were many stories of cooperation among the survivors. After days of the disaster, some people started forming local groups to support voluntary efforts to help the affected families. Their days were filled with tears, but they insisted on keeping hope alive. As for the government in Myanmar, they began focusing on the reconstruction phase. International organizations started moving the relief efforts, but there were voices rising, calling for accountability for the poor preparation for this disaster. Amid all the aid, there was always the pressing question: was the government truly ready for such a catastrophic event? And what can be done to prevent similar disasters in the future? For Thailand, this disaster was a harsh reminder of its geographical location. Although Thailand didn't experience the same devastating impact as Myanmar, tremors were felt in some places. This earthquake had an economic and political impact on the country, as many major projects were suspended due to the shaking, and the government started reviewing construction strategies in seismic areas. In conclusion, this disaster will echo in our minds for years to come. The earthquake that hit Myanmar and Thailand in March 2025 isn't just a memory, it's a lesson in human strength, how to face adversity, and how to endure and recover. And if there's one thing we've learned from this disaster, it's that nature may be harsh, but humanity, in times of hardship, shows its true power. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of the stories that need to be told. Because at Attention, we don't just tell stories, we make them live again.